Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, March 25. If you are watching live on Monday, March 25, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. Our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks on Monday, April 8 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. As always, you can watch us live on both Optimum Cable TV or Verizon. And you can go to pctv76.org for a live webcast, and within a few days to pick up an on-demand webcast of this and previous meetings. A few announcements to make. I want to congratulate the Rotary Club of Pleasantville. They had an extremely successful fundraising event over at PACE, their annual Hudson Valley Fermented. Call out to everybody on the Rotary Club, but especially to Henry Leva, who did a great job organizing that on behalf of the Rotary Club, and they raised $40,000, which are funds that they then contribute back to a whole bunch of Pleasantville and Pleasantville-related charities. So congratulations for a very, very successful thing. Any of you who are history buffs, no doubt lit 122 candles on a cake on March 16th because it was the Village of Pleasantville's 122nd birthday. That would be the 122nd anniversary of the village's incorporation. So I just happen to have it in my calendar, and it pops up every year, and so I deliver it to you for the approximately one person who's interested. That's me. No, I sell you shorts. Someone out there is interested.
Right. Come on.
I'm pretty sure. Tom, are you interested?
Is that eight?
All right.
He lights the candle.
Is that 1897?
Yes. The village, as you know, has existed as a settled place for a very, very long time before that. But the vote to incorporate as a village within the town of Mount Pleasant occurred 122 years ago. A couple of other dates to call out there. The registration for the Pleasantville Pool is going to begin in April the 22nd, and we encourage everybody to take a look at that as an option for this year. We made a number of nice improvements to the pool over the last several years, and very strongly encourage everybody to support our Pleasantville Pool. This Saturday is the Pleasantville Music Festival sale of the tent sites. So I think that starts at 9 a.m. Have I got that right, Noreen?
Doors will open at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Close at 8:30.
A lot of times.
Here in Village Hall, right?
So are they
Village
there?
Hall this year.
They're going to be sleeping
Okay.
overnight on the sidewalk
So
again?
the
In a
tent,
tent, right?
right?
In a tent that they're gonna
The
use.
tent sites. These are 10 by 10 day tent sites, not overnight tent sites. Go on sale this Saturday at Village Hall, second floor. Doors open at 8.
8.
I think there may be a lineup outside before that because they are hotly contested and they sell very fast. So if you're interested in that, we encourage you to get here early. And be reminded that the music festival this year is Saturday, July 13. Get thee to pleasantvillemusicfestival.com and you can find out all about it. You can buy advance tickets either online at the rec center and save yourself a little bit of money. We encourage everybody to participate. April 6th is the opening day for the farm market outdoors. So the last indoor market at the middle school is Saturday, March 30. April 6th, the farm market moves back to Memorial Plaza outdoors. So thanks again to the Pleasantville School District for their helpful cooperation in making it possible to have a year-round market. But this Saturday is the last indoor market and then back outdoors. Pleasantville Day, mark your calendars, is Saturday, May 18. All kinds of plans being put together for that. Also a shout out to Pleasantville residents at the Pleasantville Police Department. There is an organization called SafeWise. It's actually a profit-making entity, but they do an annual study about community safety, and Pleasantville found itself in the top 20 safest communities in New York State. Some disagreement in the world about what methodology should be used, but I'll take it. And then lastly, wanted to, two more things. One is, as we've mentioned before, PCTV, which has for many years been housed on Jackson Alley behind what is now the Miyabi restaurant, as a lot of you know, has moved itself to the former Lake Street Pump House on Lake Street. That's the low building on the right-hand side as you head up towards the pool, with the assistance of Jeff Econom, who's been an extraordinarily good job captain on this. The studio is very nearly finished. There's going to be a grand opening and ribbon cutting. And in the meantime, worth calling out that if you go to Pleasantville, to pctv76.org, you can also find out about an April 13 benefit event for PCTV, which supports all that goes on there. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, in conformance with state law, we have posted a draft budget for the fiscal year that begins June 1. Eric, you can give a rough description of it.
Sure. So the staff and I have been at work over the past, over a month, hours of meetings going line by line over the budget. So this is the tentative budget. We present it to the public and to the board, as we're obligated to do. Now the board can make adjustments or changes as needed. The public hearing on the budget is scheduled for April 8th. We'll be asking the board to move on that with a budget passage deadline of May 1st. So if everything goes according to plan, we would be set to pass the budget on April 22nd. The tentative budget currently is tax cap compliant. It seeks to fund a lot of exciting capital projects, we believe, and make sure that our operations will run efficiently and effectively next year.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Those of you who looked ahead on our agenda will see that we have an agenda resolution number 53, noticing a public hearing about overriding the property tax cap. That is essentially just belts and suspenders. As Eric already reported, the tentative budget is tax cap compliant, and it's our expectation that it will remain tax cap compliant. But in the hypothetical that over the next 4 weeks, when we continue to discuss this, there are reasons that arise that should change that. We're putting in place the mechanism to allow us to do it just in case. So it does not reflect the intent to do so, just the need to make sure that we have that capability if we need it. Further reports?
Yeah, I have a little announcement. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Mount Pleasant Library in Pleasantville, there's going to be a talk on the history of the Underground Railroad in Pleasantville, which I'm hoping to attend if I can schedule a babysitter. But it seems like for
Is this a
those
call for volunteers?
Pleasantville
Great forum.
history buffs may be interested.
Great.
Other reports? All right, I just want to mention we began the evening in work session talking about our capital projects, both the capital projects anticipated for the coming fiscal year and those in the next 3 or 4 years looking ahead. Nothing determinative in that, although a lot of what's in the near-term project list is stuff that I think is likely to happen. And afterwards, we'll head back into executive session, finish that off, talk a little bit about parking regulations, especially on Memorial Plaza. But in the meantime, is there anyone from the public who has a comment, a question, or would like to speak at this time? Welcome, sir. We know who you are, but enter and sign in, please.
Okay. Tom Rooney at 26 Hillview Drive in Pleasantville. Just a couple clarifications on what was discussed tonight. The Plaza Mandeville Road budget of $4,400,000. Why are you budgeting that much when you're going to get $1.5 million back for that part of that project? And if it was $1.5 million less than what's on this paper that you apparently are going to budget for, it would reduce the interest on the loan that you're going to have to float.
So we expect, this is just a list of what these things actually will cost. As you rightly report, we have about $1.5 million in grant money already committed, and we have another $250,000 in grant money that is in the process right now and we expect to get. So all in, if we were to do the project as currently described, it's $2 million for the park civic space. It's $2.4 million for the Manville Road projects, total of $4.4 million as is shown on that top line. Those costs would be offset minus $1.75 million in grant money.
Well, and it's retroactive, we get it back. We
Right,
have to
so-
spend it first, and then we get it reimbursed,
Right,
the
so,
1.5.
But you'd have to take a larger loan out for, you're gonna have $1.5 million more that you didn't have to finance.
It would be
Yeah,
like
right.
a short-term loan.
That's
We would
correct.
do a
but-
short-term financing, though. We would break it up so that we are able to bridge that exact thing. So we're not paying interest on principal that we ended up getting back.
Okay.
The state won't give us the money unless we first spend it. And we can't just spend it if we don't have it. We have to borrow it, spend it, then get reimbursed and pay off the debt.
But I
And
mean,
it's
it's
a
a good
short-term-
question. We would
there's-
do a short-term note for that portion of the financing
All right.
in order to time that reimbursement back. So we're not sitting there paying interest on $2 million that we already got back.
All right. And I was under
If you want to add any more to
no,
that? Eric?
it's a good question.
Yeah, no, totally.
I was under the idea that the $4,400,000 was what the project is going to cost minus what will be reimbursed. But if you go further down the aisle, the chart, then there's a Memorial Plaza lot reconfiguration of another $450,000, which is kind of like saying that 4,400 is really 4,850, which is kind of saying you're spending a whole lot more money than the original plaza project that is proposed. And
Well, so two pieces to that. Yes, you're right. That $450,000 also includes potential strategy to increase parking in that section, as well as to accommodate the changed traffic flow at the north end. So,
But you're right, it's part of those
Right.
two projects, but segregated out on this chart. You're absolutely right.
and not part of the grant reimbursable piece.
so it's a lot more money than the proposal that was stated before the hearings were closed on the plaza project. It's going to be more than the $2.5 million.
Understand something about those hearings. Those hearings were hearings on SECRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act. It was an environmental discussion. A lot of things were discussed that went beyond environmental issues like financing, and we didn't stop it, and we don't mind having that conversation. But understand that wasn't the focus of those hearings. That was to discuss, I think, parking and traffic and things like that. So, and the understanding that we had to do some reconfiguration in Memorial Plaza has always been there. Although I will say, I didn't have a number in front of me until recently, 450. And you're right, it's an additional cost.
Well,
And we're not finalized on what that would look like.
the other comment on that much money that's being spent is also the recent letters to the editor in the Examiner paper. It's clearly very one-sided. It's all on all the people that are pro on the project. Whereas it's a very controversial project, as been discussed in meetings in the past. And I did do my homework when I left last time. I went on social media. I saw a lot of things that Nicole has answered, and thank you for answering back all the other people the people that are asking. But the fact remains is that, and I brought with me as proof, not that you need it, that I have about 30 people off of the social media, which frankly is the wrong place for this, but that's where everything is happening.
I'm afraid that all
very
true,
true.
yes.
And okay, I took the other side of the fence. I picked all the negative comments because it's like when you're reading it, everybody is in favor of this. Sadly, they don't come to the meetings, they don't speak their mind, and things get, excuse me for saying this, pushed through when possibly we shouldn't be doing that. I am not in any way discussing the safety of our village with the roads. Do it, take the money for it, fix all those roads, do whatever you gotta do to make it safer. But to spend what is even more money than was proposed at the last meeting that we discussed this, it still goes back to say that the village possibly does not want this. I should say the village residents. And the only fair way to find out is if you do not want to go through the formal putting a bond resolution out there, which I understand that is intense, costly, needs a lot of approval. You don't need anything as formal as that. A mailing that would cost, in the light of the picture, nothing to mail to the residents of Pleasantville, asking their opinion to vote. You can't do this on social media. You can't ask people to do it. Of the people I canvass just on my street, they don't even know this is going on. And most of them, I should say 3 of those families are relatively brand new, and the rest of the families are old timers that are on the street. Ask them what social media is, and they'll just say, I don't know, you buy it in the corner store. I just bring that again. I feel like it's a broken record. I feel like the other side is not heard. I spoke with Jade tonight as the rep from the newspaper, and I said to her, why is everything in there so one-sided? It's one-sided. Only the pros on this project speak. And it's only a very few people that their names, who will go nameless, are writing these articles. And they're totally entitled to their opinion. But it's just that, their opinion. So I would ask that the newspaper would at least publish something on the other side of the fence to make this a fair request of what the village is going to spend now that looks like over $4 million on, well, minus what we get back. As I say, I feel like a broken record. You were all pleasant. You give up your time. You care about the village. But the money that's being spent, I mean, right now, that money could be such better spent just to make this village better. You're spending, I don't know what line it was on, to upgrade the Roselle.
The playgrounds?
The playgrounds.
It's not just Roselle, we have to decide which to do, but
Well,
70,000.
let's take Roselle for an example.
Yeah.
There was a large expenditure to upgrade it. That's great. So why not really upgrade that park? Make that our new green space, as I and others have indicated at prior meetings. The parks are already there. Doesn't affect as much as what you're trying or will affect by this project. I mean, our village downtown is viable. It makes the people speaking make it sound like our downtown is dead. Our downtown is so booming, that's why you're having so much trouble with parking and everything else. And by closing down much of that area into a park, well, only time will tell if that's done, if that's going to be a good idea or a bad idea in terms of usage. But if you look at the other parks in town, their usage is not what they were, proposed to be in the beginning. That being said, I don't know what could be done. I don't know what formally it means that the hearings on the plaza, Memorial Plaza, the formal hearings have been ended. I don't know if that means that it's a done deal now and that the project will go forward, or you will actually try to get a true vote of the people in this village if they want it, and whoever wins, well, it's not a win-lose. Whoever the majority of that vote is, then you go through with the project. Hopefully you can reduce how much you're spending on it, or you find some better way to spend $4 million in this town. Like I understand you're going to fix sidewalks. I saw that in the paper because everything is in pretty poor shape. Peter knows about the roads in town. I showed him some of them. But you live in town, so you know what I'm talking about. And it's not just Pleasantville. You can't drive anywhere on these roads now. I don't care where you go, except if you go upstate New York. You go up to the Lake George area in New York, it's like those roads are like perfect. Why? They know how to take care of them. They don't let them degrade, and they have ice and snow all the time. The last point that I want to make is that one thing that was the board discussed at your work session was the safety of our police officers in this village. And I think it's outrageous that you're worried about a $3,800 cost, that's the number I heard, to protect our officers in case of a potential problem, where you have no problem spending $4 million on something many of us think is ludicrous and not needed, but you won't spend or won't consider spending $3,800 to better protect our police officers on safety gear in case of a problem. And coming from a family of police officers, I can't understand how you can think that not spending money to make their lives safer is a waste of money. So that being said, I'd just like to recap that I would hope that the newspaper, that the paper will write something that would indicate that it's not all rosy, that this project is not going to be what a lot of people are saying that it will be, and the fact that the money's being spent for a project that may not even be used could be better spent somewhere else. So I thank you for listening to me, but I really hope you listen. Thank you.
So Tom, I just want to respond to a couple of those things.
Sure.
And one is for the benefit of those watching who weren't here in the work session. We're in the budget process where we're looking at every single line item as the staff and the department heads have. So you commented the board was disinterested in the safety of our police officers. The $3,800 item is a proposed purchase of riot gear. And the discussion you heard, and which will be ongoing, is everyone's effort to say, of course we want our police officers to have the right kind of equipment, but most people would agree that we don't need an armored vehicle, for example, and yet it's imaginable that there might be a circumstance when we wish we would have it. So I bring that up only as an extreme example of the continuum that we have to try to deal with, which is to say, when should we buy something for a what if, and when is the what if either too remote or the expense too high for us to undertake that. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand that conversation. That is exactly what you elected us to think about. Okay. So, and that's what we're struggling with. So let me just touch on a couple of other items, and that is, you must have missed a couple of issues of the Examiner. Because gosh.
There was stuff in there pretty anti-project.
I think there was a front page headline about blasting us.
That was the very first issue.
And I think you were quoted. So
unfortunately, I was.
So just saying, have at it. You've got Jade here.
First I commented
as a
how well Jade does her job, and then I asked her to write an honest.
He's currying favor with the press, Jade.
It's it.
So I just want to comment on that. And then lastly, just to be clear, you are generally speaking in favor of the Manville Road project?
I'm speaking in favor of safety.
Right. So, and the Manville Road project, which includes closing the slip lane and bumping out the sidewalks, reducing the width of the crosswalks, getting rid of the diagonal crosswalks so they're all perpendicular to the road. Those are all pedestrian safety related. Indeed, the $1.5 million grant that we got is out of a federal pot that is purely for pedestrian improvements. So I just want to be clear, when you say 4-point-something million, you're not, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, complaining about the 2.4 million that represents.
Well, the money for the slip lane is still going to cost the village, if I recall from past meetings, $700,000 to be put up against
right.
the
So that's the
$2.5 million.
Right.
So the reason, if the if the state didn't come through with their suggestions for the slip lane, I never would have thought that that was even a problem, because it has never been a problem. I still can't see how, when you close the slip lane, how traffic is possibly going to flow out of the railroad station. I mean, the other day, right in front, this is not right, but this is life, right in front of the memorial, one tractor trailer truck, one box truck, unloading their goods to the diner and the other stores. Now, where are they going to go? They're going to further block all the traffic. No matter how well you design it, there's no place for delivery trucks to go.
So, Tom-
there's no place for them to go now, which is why they stopped there.
Tom, one of the last pieces of data that was added that I don't know if you saw or not was an accident analysis of that intersection, and it indicated that Manville Road, there where the slip lane is, has 4 times the accident rate of the state average. So it is quite a dangerous intersection.
Well, you know, an intersection that is much more dangerous, in my opinion, than that one is the one by the Pleasantville Ford at the crossroads of Pleasantville Road and Bedford Road there. You're coming down,
At Manville, you mean? Manville and Pleasantville Road?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the traffic light.
Yes.
And the Ford place is on the,
Yeah, on the corner.
almost on the corner there. You come down there and you want to make a left-hand turn, and there's no arrow, nobody abides, somebody is trying to turn to the right, and other people sneak up behind them and shoot around them. And not for nothing, there's many accidents at that intersection, more than the other intersection. That can be documented. And one of those accidents was a very bad accident several years ago that my wife was in there. The exact same thing. She's waiting to make a turn. Somebody goes around the car that's there and smashes right into the front of her car. So as far as the DOT, I don't know what they do to figure out what's good, bad, right, or wrong. They're both bad. They both should be
Look,
fixed,
we
not
can't
just
scrub
one.
the world clean of these problems, but what I will say, and kind of in my last point I wanted to reflect back to you,
Sure.
is folks can and will agree or disagree about any kind of project we might undertake. But I will say, for the benefit of those who may not be aware, the idea of closing the slip lane has existed for a solid 12 or 13 years. It originally arose in a federally sponsored project to review all of our intersections downtown when Bernie Gordon was mayor and I was on the board of trustees. And then the village engaged an engineering firm to take those ideas and turn them into engineered drawings, which they did, and they sat stapled in the corner in the drawer for a very long time, absent the set of circumstances that would enable us to take action on it. A few things fell into place to make that possible now, a big piece of it being those state monies. So at any rate, whether you agree or disagree about closing the slip lane, and I can tell you, I speak for myself, not only think it's the right thing to do, but am convinced by the multiple studies that we've done that the creation of a second lane out between the War Monuments and Valvoline, so that there's a right turn lane, is sufficient to mitigate the traffic issues that folks are concerned about. Which isn't to say some folks won't be inconvenienced relative to what they are in the habit of doing right now, but I can say I don't think there's anyone who's lived here for any length of time who hasn't seen bad stuff going on as people exit Memorial Plaza on that slip lane and come up.
To answer your question directly that you asked of
Yeah.
me, yes, I'm in favor of the pedestrian safety. If closing the slip lane is what's necessary, it should be done.
Okay,
So I'm not
so I
opposed
just want to
that.
be
No,
clear
no,
that
absolutely.
it's that
No.
side of it's not
No.
the whole 4 point
I
something
do
million.
not, no,
Yeah.
I do not want to confuse one issue with the other.
All
I
right.
think the state money should be there. I think that slip lane should be gone. I think whatever your surveys came up with should be done. But that's Project A,
Okay,
which
so-
does not need Project B in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
if,
In
if-
some
if
form,
need
but
be.
obviously it could be a lot less than it is. So let me just
Yeah.
add the last point, and then we probably should move on to
Yes.
our resolutions. And I really do thank you for your engagement on this issue, because you've informed yourself and you've come back repeatedly and you've spent a lot of your time. And if we had more people doing that,
That's
it would be a better America. So thank you for that. What I did want to say is the discussion about creating a civic space in that location has been ongoing in an inclusive public way for a couple of years. I've no doubt you're right that the folks that like the idea are much more likely to have come to the workshops and get engaged in all of that. But I've been to the Chamber of Commerce, I've been to the Planning Commission, been to various settings to talk about it, and we'll continue to do that. And are thinking about ways to make sure that the folks you canvassed, as an example, are aware of what's going on. But a lot of folks, I think almost all of us, value highly the aspect of Pleasantville that some communities have lost, which is a sense of centrality, a sense of a place that people can gather, a sense of a place where pedestrian life hasn't completely given up its role in the public realm, 2 cars. And at a time when we're seeing some significant development, especially the project at the former Try-and-Buy site built going up now, and the project that is before planning right now next to the post office, folks are concerned about additional cars, additional density. Those are all required by our zoning code to have on-site parking. But at the same time, as we get these new tax ratables and as we get this new activity that will, I think, help support the vibrance of our downtown, it seems like an opportunity also to do something that's very Pleasantville-like, which is to say our downtown is really about folks wanting to walk where they're going. It's about the opportunity for folks to share a community event in an attractive space. It's an opportunity for us to have some green space that haven't been completely given over to blacktop, and this is driven by those kinds of goals. Folks are going to disagree. Is it worth the money? Is it worth the loss of parking? I could drone on for hours, which I promise I won't, about all of these aspects that have, at least in part, consumed my life for a lot of years. But as you rightly pointed out, all of us care about this place just as you do, and we don't necessarily all get to the same finish line, but the closing of the SECRA hearings, as Joe described, for the public space and the Manville Road project does not mean that the ears of the board has been closed, and we're here listening to you and struggling, as you just described, not only with spending the big bucks, but with spending the little bucks. And that's what we got elected to do, to try to make this the best place we can and to make it as affordable as possible in a world that's increasingly unaffordable. So
Well, I do respect your opinions.
I know you do, yeah.
And I say this with respect. What you just said is a lot your opinion based on what you know.
And I presented it as such. I
But
hope.
in order to make opinion fact, there has to be some type of vote. And so I keep pounding away at the board to have some type of public vote, some type of survey. Doesn't have to be formal, but it has to be not on public media. It would have to be mailed to each house with a form, with some way of responding back to the village.
And a way of describing the project in some detail. I guess.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm honestly telling you, there are people right now, right or wrong, they have no idea what's going on with Memorial Plaza because they can't see anything.
Well-
All they know is what's going on, right or wrong, with the building all over. That's in your face, you see it
Right.
every day. When you don't see it, you hear it.
You make a good point about, I mean, that's one of the challenges that we have is how do we communicate with everyone, particularly in a day and age when people don't get their information in the same way, right? Some people are never going to read the Examiner, unfortunately. Some people are never going to go on Facebook, right? So you have to find different avenues. So one thing that we're working on, we've discussed various ways of making people more aware of this project, but we're going to, with the help of a couple of interns from a graduate course at NYU that David is teaching. We're going to put
Thank you,
together
David.
a website that will have postings about different things that the village is doing, and the civic space is one thing that's a priority. So for a lot of people, my husband, for example, refuses to go on Facebook, but more people can at least access something that's online. And you know, we've talked about possibly holding a public meeting. So we're thinking about other ways to get that information
message
out
out.
there, because I agree with you, there certainly are people who don't know about it because they're not accessing the forums in which we're discussing it, and that's part of the challenge, is figuring out what are the different ways that we can get the information out
I
there.
know, and my wife has been in contact with George Latimer, our county exec, and not in contact with him. He visits several groups, and he visits their group that they meet every, not every week. And a discussion that he had with her was that in the county, if the county has a budget, has an outlay expense of over, and I can't give you the figure because I don't remember what it was, of over a certain amount of, let's say $1 million. I made that up. That they have to go out for a vote. They have to vote. And so this is what I'm bringing to you. If the county has to do that, then why can't a village, such as our village, you're over a certain amount of money? You're asking how, $4 million for this, $4 million plus for this project. If you add up all the other lines that add up into that, there has to be some dollar amount, or should be some dollar amount, where it's not a decision that I have to preach to the choir every week about getting a vote. Is if it was a village, I'll say law or policy, you're spending more than $2 million, you need town approval. Now, if we're spending $4 million, don't make that vote 4,100. But the point still remains, and I'll stop now.
Okay.
The only way of doing it fairly is to have somebody say yay and nay. Thank you.
Understood.
I know I rambled.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh,
Just one more shout out to another way folks can get information, and I know not everybody is involved in email, but for those that are, go to pleasantville-ny.gov, and in the left-hand column, second button down, news and announcements. Click into that, and the top item is the Code Red Emergency Notification System, which is something you ought to sign up for if you possibly can. But right below it is subscribe to news. You get to choose the items that are of interest, including general news and announcements, but also the agendas for the Architectural Review Board, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board, and the Village Board of Trustees. And all you have to do is sign up for those things, and those things will arrive in your email box whenever a meeting is coming up, and you'll have a chance to review that stuff if it's of interest. So pleasantville-ny.gov, it would be great to see a spike in subscribership. All right, any further comments? Then number 50, we've kept you guys waiting. Here we go.
Okay, sorry.
Nicole.
In the meantime, I've wandered on my screen. All right, number 50. Okay. Whereas Deputy Village Treasurer Robin Rizzo will be resigning effective April 27, 2019, and whereas the village has interviewed several candidates and will be appointing Noreen McGinty as Deputy Village Treasurer, and whereas some overlapping and training is necessary, and whereas Westchester County Department of Human Resources does not allow for 2 Deputy Village Treasurers, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees, based on the rules and regulations of Westchester County Development of Human Resources, hereby appoints Noreen McGinty as a temporary employee effective April 8, 2019 to April 26, 2019 for training purposes at a salary of $44.97 per hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
So Robin has served us well, and we view it as vaguely disloyal for you to have any kind of another life that would lead you to leave
I
us.
want to leave.
Not pickleball.
Not pickleball.
But I just want to publicly thank you for the
Yeah.
professionalism and the good spirit and the stable, friendly, professional face you have provided as Deputy Treasurer, and delighted to welcome Noreen, briefly in a temporary capacity, soon in a permanent capacity. We have already discussed the complexity of having two Noreens on the third floor.
Right? We'll work that out.
I imagine that it would be unreasonable to ask anyone to change their name at this date, so we will deal with it.
And on that point,
yes.
my sister-in-law's name is Noreen. In my entire life, I never knew a Noreen besides her.
Now you know too?
And now, in the same building that, in which I am a trustee, two red-headed Noreens. It's interesting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
You need not feel obligated to spend the rest of the evening.
Stay for the rest of the meeting.
The rest is really
It's so
exciting.
exciting.
51.
Resolved in accordance with Section 5-510 of New York State Village Law that the Board of Trustees hereby acknowledges the receipt of the village fiscal year-end 2020 tentative budget from the village administrator.
Is there a second?
Second.
So as reported in the announcement section, the tentative budget, which is a draft to be worked on over the next month, is posted with the village clerk. It's up on the website at pleasantville-ny.gov. And as you will see in the next resolution, we'll be posting a public hearing to make a public presentation of it, where Eric has promised that he has not expunged at least the animated GIF that Patty had for the
Really?
pool.
That's going to live on.
It's vintage.
Yeah.
Boy, it is certainly vintage. There's a couple other words for it.
All right, so all in favor of number 51, acknowledging receipt of the tentative budget?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 52, Joe.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby schedules the public hearing for the village fiscal year-end 2020 tentative budget for April 8th, 2018, 8 p.m. prevailing time, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
What-
approved.
what is
Wait, it says
prevailing
20,
time? Why would you say 8 o'clock?
Yeah, 2019.
2019.
I should have caught
Yeah.
that.
And that is prevailing though, nonetheless.
So is it acceptable to the motioner and the seconder that we do this in 2019 instead of time traveling?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. So that's our next meeting, 2 weeks from today, Monday, April 8 at 8 p.m., where Eric Morrissey, our administrator, will present the budget. And we will have a reappearance of the vintage animated GIFs, at least the swimming guy,
Yeah.
which we look forward to. It otherwise brightens what is
What
a
dull
little bit of a dull evening. Important, but dull. 53, Joe.
No.
Oh,
It's
David, sorry.
Whereas the state legislature and the governor enacted legislation that establishes a property tax cap on the amount that a local government's property tax levy can increase each year. Whereas under this law, the total amount to be raised through property taxes charged on the municipality's taxable assessed value of property will be capped at 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less, with some exceptions. And whereas state legislation provides for local governments to override the cap and to protect from unforeseen financial circumstances, and whereas state legislation requires that in the event that an override is necessary, the law enabling it must already have been adopted by the Board of Trustees prior to the adoption of the current year's budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village clerk to notice a public hearing for Monday, April 8th, 2019 at 8 p.m. Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to hear comments as it pertains to a local law overriding the property tax cap.
Is there a second?
Second.
So as I mentioned earlier, it is not our intention to override the tax cap this year, and the tentative budget that we have presented does not override the tax cap. But the mechanics of allowing us to do so in the event that our work in the next month would suggest that we should require that we go through this process. So going through this public hearing and enacting the legislation that would allow us to override the cap is a pro forma procedure to give us the option in the event that it should become necessary. Again, it is not our current plan.
Have a comment?
Hmm?
Comment? It strikes me that we have a tentative budget that is now tax cap compliant. We happen to be in a fiscally advantageous position with the growth if we had in the village, and at the moment have no plan. If anything, we're going to be cutting items out of the budget. I cannot envision, and I will say that I would not support breaking the tax cap this year. There may be other years where it may be necessary, but I cannot envision where that would be. So I wouldn't support that legislation anyway. With some big projects coming up, we're expecting to spend a lot of money, and I support those projects where we can save money. We should. I wouldn't support breaking the tax cap this year, and I don't think it's pro forma in the sense that I don't recall doing this last year or the year before. If we did, I just don't remember it, but I don't think we did. And for that reason, I wouldn't be supporting this legislation anyway. So I'm going to be voting no on even scheduling a public hearing because I don't think it's necessary. But that's just my opinion. I'm only one.
Other comments?
Well, I do think if we had, a break in a water main or something happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks, that we should have the ability to respond to an emergency that, could cause an expense for the next year. I wouldn't support, in the normal course of business, I don't think we should break the tax cap this year, and it's hard to imagine supporting that, but I think always having flexibility is generally a good thing, so I would support this.
Let me also say there's some communities that go through this pro forma process every year
Correct.
without any connection to a plan to do it or not.
It's part of the process, giving the board the ability to break the cap if needed. And again, the tentative budget is now for you to change and edit, so it's giving you the extra tool in your toolbox.
And this public meeting happens the meeting before the vote would then be established, right?
Well, we have to have a public hearing, and that has to be noticed, so.
Right, but we wouldn't do it the same night as we would then potentially vote.
You
You could. but
Yes.
we would-
But you'd have to notice the public hearing at the next meeting for the meeting
Then we
following.
have to pass
so.
it by the first, right?
I mean, I personally
Well-
think, we had this discussion, I had this discussion with Eric and the finance and Noreen about this, and I do think it's logical for us to, you're quite right, we haven't done this as a matter of course. I think we should do it as a matter of course. And I say that both to give us the flexibility and also because it's important for folks to realize that the idea of a 2% tax cap is appealing to all, which is to say none of us, including the 5 of us who sit here and vote on this stuff, want to pay any more taxes than we have to, and lots of us, myself included, struggle to do it. That said, we live in an environment where a variety of costs, including costs that are driven in significant part by the state mandates or by the state's tacit support of various kinds of employment law, and by the driving cost of health care, mean that it is simply unrealistic for communities to stay under a 2% tax cap for the rest of time, absent some very significant change. There's a lot of discussion right now, and it appears likely that it will be achieved in Albany, that the tax cap, which has been a several-year legislation, will be made permanent. And, to be perfectly honest, it is simply magical thinking to imagine that a government like this one, careful and as responsible as we can be, can run forever without ever exceeding a 2% tax cap, unless the world changes in fundamental and likely problematic ways.
And some of the mandates that we get from Albany change. I mean, some of the advice that we get in is from there, right?
No doubt.
So
So,
that
I mean,
becomes
the
very
healthcare costs
difficult.
alone
Right.
are just a huge driving force in the economy in every respect, in the private sector as well. So, at any rate, I do think it makes sense for us to do this on a pro forma basis annually, even though we haven't in the past. And I also think it makes sense to go through this process to at least have a brief opportunity to talk to folks about how it looks
What it
from
really means.
where we sit. So,
Because if we got a few unexpected retirements, or there was injuries or workers' comp claims, all of those things could affect our budget for next year, right?
I don't
we can
think
respond to an emergency, but
Yeah.
our
No, but-
We're talking
authorized.
about planning.
but- yeah,
We're
right.
talking about planning our fiscal future for the year.
Yes.
That's what a budget is. It's a plan. And we certainly always have the ability to, draw money from fund balance or elsewhere in order to deal with those eventualities. We're a month, less than a month away from adopting a budget, and at this point, I mean, I think we know what our plan is. 97%. I mean, there are going to be some tweaks and adjustments to it, I'm sure, that we have in mind right now, and that will likely come as a result of the public hearing. But the idea of raising the plan above the cap limit at this point, I just don't envision it at all, and I just can't see supporting a tax cap.
So,
plus.
Eric,
that's just me.
if we were to add $25,000 back to this budget in expense, what's the?
We're under the cap by about 5,000.
Okay, so if we add $6,000 of expense in the review of this,
We have to have this resolution.
Correct.
right? So I mean, I just want people to realize that there's nothing, there's no flexibility. That goes to the comment Tom made earlier.
Is it possible to make a comment?
Sure. That goes to the comment Tom made earlier when we were gnashing our teeth a bit about a $3,800 piece of equipment for the police.
Right.
It is extraordinarily easy to spend $6,000, and in the overall scheme of things, it's not a large sum of money, and yet that would make us
That's a big
not
impact.
tax cap compliant. A comment from the public?
Shane McGaffey, 85 Nanahagan Road, Pleasantville, New York. I would, Joe, disagree with you just on the main point. I think it's important, especially this year, to highlight what the state is doing. And in fact, in the executive budget, the governor proposed to cut entirely village funding.
Yes.
So this is a year where now, as proposed, we'll see what happens, in the one House bills, it's still there, but we'll see, in the big ugly, what ends up happening. This is a year where we, in Pleasantville, may no longer get any state aid.
And we only
So our
get,
property taxes are going
$50,000
up there
as it is.
and
Right.
not coming back. And at the very least, we put a marker out there and say, hey, we might have to start overriding tax caps because guess what? You give us nothing. And not only that, it's important to say, and stop, please, calling it a 2% tax cap. It's not a 2% tax cap. 2 years ago for school districts, 13% of school districts, it was a negative number. And it can be a negative number.
Right.
So we have to stop saying we have to live under 2%. We might have to live under minus 5%. So I think it's important, by sending a message that we may have to override something, it's a BS cap. And it's being marketed in a way to the public that's not true.
Well, I'll say this.
Simplify.
I have no intention of voting for a budget that exceeds the tax cap this year.
I understand, but I think it's about highlighting to the public what's really going on.
to have the discussion.
Sorry for being so emotional.
I don't mean to. I don't mean to cut
Thank you,
short the
Shane.
idea
We
of.
found your button.
I don't mean to, by voting, by suggesting that I'm going to vote no on this resolution to schedule a public hearing. I don't want to quell discussion about it. Having a public hearing is a good idea. I just can't see supporting it this year for us. Now, to make a point to Governor Cuomo, I'm all for it. So for that, you've all convinced me. I'll vote yes for this. I'll vote yes, and we'll have the discussion. That's perfectly fine. But I want to make it clear. I believe we are in a fiscal position right now
Yeah.
Right.
where we
And I
do
think we
not
would all
in any
agree with
way
that.
need to.
I understand,
fund the
but
tax cap.
things happen quickly, and I think we have to get the message out again and again and
Yeah.
again what's happening in
That's
this
fine.
area.
All right,
That's all I have to
democracy
say.
in action. Thank you
There we
all.
go. It works.
Let's call for a vote. All in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, Joe, there we go.
It has passed unanimously. Number 54, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby institutes no parking every Saturday from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. from April 6, 2019 to December 7, 2019 as follows. Memorial Plaza parking lot both sides from the gazebo to the end of the parking lot, northerly direction. Parking meter numbers 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, and 137 across from the Pleasantville Diner. Further resolved that the police department is hereby authorized to post no parking signs and to tow all vehicles in violation of this temporary parking restriction.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is exactly the parking arrangement that has existed for many years for the farm market, just establishing the right to tow. We have signs out. It's quite well signed, and generally speaking, don't have to tow a lot of vehicles because folks are familiar with the program. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Steve, 55.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes from the Village Board meeting of March 11th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just, I should have called this out earlier, but the minutes remind me of the fact that there was a village election last week, and that village election was for a single post, that of village justice, and it was.
Did he win?
He did. John Curley was reelected with no opposition as the village justice of the village of Pleasantville. So, congratulations, Judge Curley, and thanks to anyone who found their way to one of the 3 polling places that the County Board of Elections insisted on opening for an uncontested race for a single judge.
Village
So,
judge.
any comments or corrections to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 56, Joe.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request submitted by Arc Stages, Inc., 174 Wheeler Avenue, to waive the 30-day waiting period required for a New York State liquor license.
Is there a second?
Second.
I happen to know, since I know the folks at ARC, that their intention is to have a license that would allow them to sell beer and wine at performances. They seek, as many organizations looking for a liquor license, for us to waive the 30-day notice requirement. In the end, the licenses are issued by the State Liquor Authority.
Correct.
We have nothing to do with it. Comments, questions?
But we can waive the notice requirements.
We can.
Right.
Really?
The 30-day window, yep.
Move the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. 57, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Stephanie Villa, Recreation Assistant in the Recreation Department's Panther Club program effective March 2nd, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry to see Stephanie leave. In her note of resignation, it says it's been a wonderful experience to work with the children, get to know the staff. She's leaving because of an increasing school workload. We wish her the best, appreciate her service. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 58. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Michael Farley, court attendant, effective October 16th, 2019, presumably?
18.
That one is correct.
Oh,
18.
2018, sorry.
It's
Getting the years.
Noreen is buttoning up,
That
right.
one's right.
buttoning
The
up
paperwork
loose
done.
ends.
He was a substitute.
A
But it's
substitute.
just his schedule's gotten so busy that
Right.
he's just not available, so it's easier
Okay.
to have him resign and we'll replace him with
Another
candidate.
substitute. All in favor?
Aye.
Did we
Motion
get a second?
approved.
Did we
Yes,
get
need a second.
Oh,
Second.
sorry.
Oh.
I second.
Joe is second. Now all in favor?
Aye.
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 Carried. Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the agreement with OnSolve for Code Red Emergency Notification Services, June 1, 2019 through May 31st, 2020, for a fee of $4,489.20.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the same rate as last year? So Code Red, just to remind folks, it's a subscription service that we pay $4,489.20 a year for, and which hopefully we will not use. But when we went through Superstorm Sandy, it was crystal clear that it was extraordinarily difficult to communicate to folks who were out of power or who had moved in with friends or relatives who were elsewhere traveling and were worried about what was going on in the village and with their homes. And so what Code Red allows is for folks to sign up and register with an email address, with a cell phone number, with you can request to get emails, text messages, voicemail messages at either your primary number and also other numbers. And so it's a means by which in an emergency we have a much better chance of being able to communicate with people in dire circumstances. It is not a service we will be using to remind you your water bill is due. It is purely an emergency service, and I encourage you to go to pleasantville-ny.gov, again, that left-hand column, subscribe to news, and sign up for Code Red. Further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 60, Joe.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the promotion and salary increase for Dominic Bongarzone. Is that how he pronounces it?
Mhm.
Bongarzone? Job title motor equipment operator, job code 0427, CSEA wage, Schedule A, MEO spec at annual salary of $77,285.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dominic would move into this new promotional position based on the retirement of the previous occupant of the slot.
Edwin Rivera, correct.
So it's within the budget. There's no change in the overall cost. Congratulations to Dominic, who's been with us, I think, 22 years. Have I got that right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
All in favor?
Aye.
61, David.
Resolved that the following budget amendments are hereby approved as listed below. $3,999 from a contingent account to special events supplies. $121.85 from street resurfacing to capital sidewalk project. $8,144.50 from sidewalk program January to March 2019 to capital sidewalk project. $96,819.26 from state aid CHIPS funding to street resurfacing, and $22,099.96 from state aid pave New York funding to account H5197-201
Same one,
street
street
resurfacing.
resurfacing.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
So these are housekeeping changes and reflecting revenues we get from the state for road resurfacing.
Yeah, the one item I'd point out to you, Mr. Mayor, is the top one for special events will go into funding a sound system for special events. I know we've historically relied on your son's sound system.
We have, and I'm tired of dragging it around. Thank you, Shane.
Is the CHIPS money in addition to monies we otherwise budget for road resurfacing, or is that part of our?
It's projected, yeah. It's budgeted for.
So when we budget, say, $200,000 in a year for road resurfacing, that it's not $290,000 because we get $90,000 in CHIPS money. It's $200,000 in CHIPS money. It's just a revenue that offsets that
Correct.
that expense.
Yep.
Okay.
The PAVE NY was based on an extreme winter, so that's a
Right.
discretionary decision that the state makes whether or not to allocate that funding. So
And we'll see where CHIPS lands. We'll know in a few days.
The budget.
that
At the
we
moment,
will.
it's stable.
Yep.
Right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 62, Nicole.
Resolved that the check register dated March 25th, 2019 for fiscal year 2019 covering check numbers 92750 to 92861 is hereby approved as listed below. From the General Water Capital Refuse and Trust Funds, a total of $322,537.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just to give you an idea of the impact of the weather on your village government, we have in here 40 some odd $1,000 in sand and salt. That's a lot of sand and salt. Any comments, questions about the check register? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 63.
Resolved that the check register dated March 25th, 2019 for fiscal year 2020, covering check numbers 92862 to 92864, is hereby approved as listed below. From the general fund, a total of $1,300.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this reflects the fact that we need to get into the proper fiscal year expenses that refer to it, in this case, pool ticket booklets and some day camp supplies,
Correct.
which are for the next year. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 64, Joe.
Resolved that the following budget amendments are hereby approved as listed below. A budget transfer of $2,356.66 from Pleasantville Strong Drug Free Communities to drug-free community supplies expenses. A decrease in revenue and expenses, a decrease of $14,034.31 from Pleasantville Strong Drug-Free Community revenue going into various Pleasantville Strong other lines, Pleasantville Strong part-time, Pleasantville Strong conferences, Pleasantville Strong miscellaneous expenses. It's all for Pleasantville Strong.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, there's more below that.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yes.
Increase in revenue and expenses of an increase of $125,000 also from Pleasantville Strong Drug-Free Communities revenues for other various Pleasantville Strong expenditure needs.
So
Is
what
there a
this?
second?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
What is this?
This is Pleasantville Strong. They operate on a federal fiscal year,
Okay.
which ends
And
at the
we-
end of
And
September.
we are the fiscal agent.
Correct.
Okay.
We
It
administer
is-
their funding.
They get a $125,000 grant for each year for a 5-year period.
Okay.
That has the potential to be renewed, although I think as the administration's current federal budget looks, those monies get zeroed out. We'll see how that ends up, hopefully not, but at any rate. We're the fiscal agent. It doesn't cost tax money. It's all these federal funds.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a
motion-
second.
Oh,
Oh,
second.
sorry.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye, motion approved.
More and more.
65. David,
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves a request from Holy Innocents Parish to close the Tompkins Avenue parking lot to public parking on Saturday, May 18, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for the purpose of a parish tag sale.
is there a second?
Second.
Two things to note. First is that is Pleasantville Day, and they'll be having a tag sale. The second is, and not everyone realizes, is that parking lot that's at the corner of Manville Road and Tompkins Avenue belongs to Holy Innocents. And in exchange for some improvements we made to it and the village taking responsibility for plowing and maintenance, Holy Innocents allows a substantial portion of that to be used for public parking, consistent with their needs. As you can see on the signs there, it's closed except for folks with a church sticker at certain times on Saturday. But at any rate, just want to, and Sunday, just to remind everyone that they are requesting to close a lot that they own. And the reason for that is that we have this agreement for this shared use in exchange for the village has supported. So we thank Holy Innocents once again for the I think productive partnership we have in the use of that lot. And I, for one, am happy to vote yes. All in favor?
Aye.
66. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Sean Tiffany to Village of Pleasantville's Parks Department as laborer, job code 0425, CSEB wage schedule B, step 1, annual salary $54,850, effective April 8th, 2019. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks and contingent upon completion of conditional job offer pre-employment requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Welcome Sean Tiffany to our Parks Department, filling a vacant spot.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 67.
There's a go. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Leonard Balducci Jr. to the Department of Public Works, Highway Department as a motor vehicle operator, job code 0427, CSEB, wage schedule B, step 1, annual salary $60,916, effective April 8th, 2019. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
So Lenny is replacing Dominic,
Uh-huh.
who's moving up to MEO specialist.
All right.
Congratulations, Lenny.
Yes.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. That was the last of our agenda items. Any new business? Further comment from the public? All right, with that, we thank you for your attention. We'll be back in 2 weeks on April 8th, where, among other...
Organizational meeting.
Aha! Good
To do
point.
that With just the
We'll be
one
back here
election.
next,
Yep.
or 2 weeks, on April 1st, 7 p.m.
That is a good point.
April 1st?
I didn't have that on my calendar because, of course, we didn't have an election this year. So the village is required by a state law to have
That's next week.
an organizational
Yeah,
meeting.
next week, you're right.
The first meeting of April, at which we go through a raft of plain Jane kinds of resolutions, establishing policies, bank depositories, official newspapers, etc. In most years, when there is an election for a member of this board, it is also the occasion to swear in new or re-elected members and to thank and honor outgoing members. This year is the off year in our cycle, and there was no election for a member of this board, so the organizational meeting is the pro forma resolution. So let me start again. We'll see you in 1 week, if you're so inclined, at our organizational meeting Monday, April 1 at 7 p.m., not 8. And then back to our regular schedule on Monday, April 8 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. And on that occasion, we'll have the public hearing and the detailed description of the draft budget that you can go look at pleasantville-ny.gov, which, as it stands right now, pending our further tinkering with it, is tax cap compliant. Thank you all. Is there a motion to go into executive session on matters of personnel?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.